right. Well, welcome to another episode here on our show. We have an awesome guest in Kipp that was gracious enough to join us for a few minutes and talk about his world, specifically in franchising, which Ted and I are much more on the forefront of with Junk Raider and going the franchise model there. So we're eager to pick Kipp's brain a little bit about what he's experienced in the whole franchise world. Um, so that I don't mess anything up, Kip, Kip, I'll turn it over to you to do a quick intro of yourself, how you got to where you're at today, and what you have going on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Davis. I really appreciate it. It's good to meet you guys and excited for your stuff as well. So I got into franchising because it seemed like a really good way to build a business and scale it very quickly. You know, people say that franchising is an industry, they'll refer to the franchise industry in those words exactly. But in reality, franchising is not an industry. It's just a way to grow a business. You know, it's a business model in a sense. And so what I wanted to do was put my full weight behind something with a team of people that were going to be just as motivated to succeed as I was. You know, that is the most difficult part about any business is that, you know, that employee, you know, how do you get them to be motivated? How do you get them to be fully on board with everything that you're doing? And franchising just seemed like a really good way to do that, because where else do you have, you know, essentially what could be considered in some ways to be a manager, someone who is that vested in the business. And, you know, employee management is something that I don't love. It's probably the hardest part to really dial in. And so that's how I got into it. I'm currently the director of franchise development for Hawaii Fluid Art. And a lot of what that looks like is working with, you know, franchise consultants, working with people who are interested in purchasing a franchise, managing that sales pipeline, and just making sure that, you know, we're the right fit for people. Because the goal isn't to sell as many franchises as possible. The goal is to find the right type of people who are going to help grow the brand in the way that it needs to be grown. Obviously, we get, you know, a certain amount of people in the door, and I have, you know, maybe 75 to 120 leads at any given point in time. My first job is to make sure that there's no major red flags, right? You know, and so obviously if a lead is brought to you via a consultant, then there's been some vetting that's been done already on that person, whether that be financial or a little bit of personality fit. But you have to be the biggest advocate for your brand out there. And so what I want to see is honestly a lot of the soft skills that are sometimes overlooked in the business world. I want to make sure that, you know, this is somebody that I could see myself working with for the next 10 years or longer, you know, should they decide to renew. And that means that they can give a little bit. You know, that means that they're a person who wants to, you know, continue to improve themselves. They're a person that wants to be involved in their community. And we operate best off of a semi-absentee basis, but that's a finicky thing to get down, because on one hand, you know, we don't necessarily want strictly owner operators. We want you to be able to go out and work on the business. And so I'm looking for people who are willing to hit the pavement, go to these Chamber of Commerce events, things like that. But I'm also looking for people who won't be too overly invested in the business, in the sense of, you know, feeling the sense of rejection if a customer is rude to them, or, you know, things like that, because you have to be able to separate yourself from the business somewhat while still remaining invested in it. And so I'm looking for all of these personality traits to make sure that these people are going to be good for the brand. And like you were just talking about, Ted, that culture is unique to your company, and franchises require a strong culture in order to remain cohesive. It will tear a franchisor apart if you have franchisees in your system that are not aligned with your values, that are not aligned with your morals and the way that you want to do business.
Kip, when you're doing your initial evaluation of a contact form that comes through, or if you're on an initial call, you mentioned, you know, looking for folks that obviously are a good fit for Hawaii Fluid Art. And I would say that a lot of franchise brands are probably going through a similar process every time, you know, leads come in. but they're looking for different things, right? For us in the junk removal space, we're going to be looking for certain characteristics or traits of the individual, or maybe past experience that we think would allude to a good franchisee and somebody to bring into the family. What does that look like specifically for Hawaii Fluid Art? What are you looking for, maybe, from a personality perspective with folks you chat with, and also tactfully, like what their past experience is and what their business acumen might look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think for us specifically, our business model is so simple that we don't necessarily exclude people if they don't have prior business experience. What I like to see personally is some management experience, or at least a high level technical role that would require somebody to continue to hone their skills. Basically, either personnel management experience that typically comes with business management experience on some level, even if you're, only a small part of the big machine. But the main thing that I look for is a basic level of aptitude paired with being a decent human being, because a franchisee has a lot of potential to do damage to you. It's a very intimate relationship, and we can teach a lot of the technical skills as long as somebody is above a certain threshold and willing to learn, right? But what I really want to make sure is that, whatever the experience is paired with, again, above a certain threshold, this person is humble, is coachable, is willing to learn, is willing to comply with the franchise system. And a lot of our potential franchisees come from the tech industry. We have attorneys, we have doctors, we have multiple doctors in the franchising world. And it's a huge range of experience, and it's a huge range of technical aptitude or lack of technical aptitude. But really, we just want to make sure that they're good people who are going to be trustworthy, who are willing to be involved in their communities, and can learn new skills.
Is there one thing that you've realized in vetting enough resumes, submission forms, potential candidates, that you point to and be like, yeah, if I see this or hear this, this is absolutely a no-go, whether that's a trait or somebody coming from a specific industry, anything that you can think of that's been like a common thread where you've weeded out somebody or anything right off the bat?
I don't think that there's nothing immediately comes to mind that's, a huge red flag, outside of, what you would normally consider to be a red flag about anybody, right?
Yeah.
But one thing that I really like to see, I guess, is that people are interested in the community aspect of the business. If the first three questions that I have with somebody are, how much money can I make? How long will it take to make this money? And what does that look like for me? Then I do get a little bit concerned. That's obviously not something that I'll see on a resume, but it does tend to happen pretty quickly. We know that people are here to make money. We don't have a problem with that. But when money is the only motive, then I start to get a little concerned that they will disregard some elements of the business in favor of pursuing, just the revenue drivers, and
Yep.
might not have as much compliance with things like, making sure that the brand standards are intact and things like that. Being a franchisor is can be very rewarding. Being a franchisee is really nice because I don't have to worry about a lot of the administrative systems and, the employee management and things like that. At the franchisee level, I have 2 staff members that I'm responsible for each location. I have 3 stores up and running now. I'll have hopefully 10 by the end of 2025. And it's a lot of different things that happen at once. It's a bit of a non-traditional role, but I think the biggest thing that I felt was a sense of relief that, it wasn't just me and my business partner trying to become franchisors. And, I love being a part of Hawaii Fluid Art. It's such a supportive group of people, of the smartest people I've ever worked with, the most motivated people I've ever worked with, all set on one common purpose. And yeah, so overall, I'm much happier doing what I'm doing now. And being a franchisor is great. You learn a lot, but it's also a lot of management. And then you have the franchisee management as well. You're responsible for all aspects of the business, and you are as a franchisee too. It's in a much reduced capacity. It's a manageable capacity as a franchisee, but as a franchisor, you really need a team of of, probably 5 or 6 at least to handle everything, or you need to pay a lot of money to people who are going to um, help you run the business as a third party. But yeah, it's been a great transition, and I'm very happy with it.
I think one of the things that I've, going into the franchise process, Kip, just transparently that I've been, I don't know if the word concerned or just, kept at the forefront of my mind is like, to your point, I don't know everything about franchising. Um, and I would say most folks don't know everything about running a business either, no matter how intelligent you are, right? We all have kind of a niche. Like Ted is a sales and marketing background. I'm more of a sales, kind of an operations background. But when you get into the franchising space, like we've started a company and we know all about our company and everything we do here at our Charlotte location, and we can talk to a lot of different areas when we start having people do the same thing in various cities. Like these trucks are the best ones for you, and you probably need this amount of folks to go out there and do the jobs. And here's how you price jobs and all that stuff. But like when I look at a franchise process, like if I get a lead today for somebody who's interested in becoming a franchisee, I know that they're going to have, if they ask me 10 questions on the first call, there's probably 5 that I'm not going to know the answer to, mainly related to like our FDD. Like, even though we went through months of drafting that with a legal team and giving a bunch of feedback, there's a lot of things that someone's going to ask that I probably don't know the answer to. And I know how to kind of address that so that it's not like weird and that they're like, oh, you don't know anything about this. Like I know how to address it. I guess my question is like, how have you and folks within Hawaii Fluid Art adapted to, I have to imagine that you guys are in the same boat, right? You don't know everything. How have you guys adapted, over all of the franchisees that I think you mentioned you're at like 200 that you've brought on board? How have you guys adapted to not knowing everything? Or is it, hey, we know pretty much everything now because we've been through this at least 200 times? Like, can you speak to that just a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's, the FTD is the most intimidating process, especially for, new sales executives on your team, right?
Yeah.
It seems like you're going to step on a landmine if you deviate and say the wrong thing, you're going to get sued. That's how people talk about it. And, the last year has been a period of tremendous growth. And I think I've learned, probably 5 or 6 new things every day. At least one of those pertains to the FTD. And so one thing that I did coming into it was I read the FTD 5 or 6 times. Printed it out, I got a pen out, and I asked our legal team dozens and dozens and dozens of questions about it. Getting kind of what I hear you talking about is kind of the unconscious understanding that you develop over time in terms of not only your understanding, but how you teach other things as well. Because people will have questions about things, and a lot of times legal language is viewed subjectively. In the court of law, legal language can be viewed subjectively. And so you want to be careful about, how you go about doing that. And it pertains to the rest of the franchise system as well. Obviously the FDD is a big deal, but there's so many other things with franchising where you have to, you know, gain that unconscious understanding about how something operates, and you're bringing in, it's not like a traditional business. You're bringing in middle management that has legal power, you know, and they may not have equity in your franchisor entity, but they can do a lot of damage. So at this point, I feel like we're pretty savvy with everything. I field FTP questions all the time. I field franchise agreement questions all the time. It's but it's taken a long time to get there, and I haven't had any lessons that were too painful so far. But a lot of back and forth, and a lot of times it just comes down to me saying, "Hey, I don't know the answer," and just leading with that humility, leading with that honesty and transparency, and letting people know that we're a new franchisor. We're going to do everything that we can to do the right thing. And if I can't answer a question, then I will ask our attorney and get that figured out for you.
So, Kip, let's talk about the Hawaii Fluid Art a little bit more in a granular sense. Is this like physical location somebody can show up to? Correct. So it's, I guess you would call that retail, right? Our business is more service led, although we have trucks and whatnot on the road that perform jobs. We don't have physical locations that require a franchisee to say, hey, you've got to go through site selection and this has to be your store or your office. It's nice to have like, some sort of like multi-purpose warehouse slash like little office type place where you can check in, you keep all your trucks, guys show up there every day. That's the starting point. They go out in the field. It's not a necessity. For Hawaii Fluid Art, I assume that you guys are very much so out in the community, retail, storefront, everybody, foot traffic is big. But I guess the question there is, talk to us just a bit about the model. How do you market? How do you get customers? Is it a lot of marketing online, branding online, and awareness that way, or do you rely a lot on foot traffic and just who's in the local area seeing your store?
It's a blend of both. We do a lot of the real estate work with and for the franchisee. So we provide a lot of extra support, I think, over what most brick and mortar franchisors would offer. And the reason we do that is because the experience range of our franchisees varies so greatly. If you've never seen a commercial lease before and you see the words personal guarantee, you might not be a happy camper. And
Yeah.
so, we do a lot of that. We do a lot of the negotiation and stuff. We also, of course, run, digital ads, whether that be through traditional Meta Business Suite or, Google SEO, things like that. In that sense, we haven't reinvented the wheel. But the location is very, very important. And so we spend a lot of time selecting that with the franchisee. And we obviously don't allow them to move forward until we feel like a location that's suitable has been selected.
What's the go to market like? There's a bunch around just businesses in general and why somebody would want to get into owning a business. But I feel like a lot of brands probably settle on a thing or two that they can point to. And maybe it's not a differentiator, but it is hey, this is why it's great to work with us and join our family. Does Hawaii Fluid Art, have you guys kind of found that niche, if you will? Is it, we do a lot of good in the community, and it's a very philanthropic type of initiative that we're doing here at Hawaii Fluid Art, or is it, hey, you make great money here doing it? It's very it's either completely absentee or semi-absentee or anything along those. Like, have you guys settled? Like, we just love helping kids and families have amazing experiences. Like, what is it that you guys have settled on, if anything?
Yeah, so there's a couple things, and Maya really is the best one to talk to about, what the ultimate vision, mission, and purpose is for the company. But I can say that, as a team, we want everybody to be able to create art that they enjoy. And it kind of ties into one of the competitive advantages that we have over similar concepts is that you don't have to have any art experience to make something that's absolutely stunning in our studio. And you can do it time and time again. And each time it will be unique because, a lot of times when people hear the word art, they think about the time, that they were in elementary school and they painted something and their best friend made fun of it or, something like that. They get a little bit protective almost, a little nervous, a little apprehensive. And so we really want people to be able to create stuff, feel proud of it, understand that they can be artists as well and do it in a way that's accessible, affordable. And, we also do a lot of philanthropic events, but, the main thing is that we want as many people to be able to create as possible. Hawaii Fluid Art is a place that anybody can come to, no matter how old you are, if you have a disability or anything. And you will just feel loved, supported. You will have a great time. You will build relationships, maintain relationships with your friends and family, and come away with a tangible product that will remind you of that time that you spent with them. I think that's the best answer to that. We offer a mix of blended retail, and we also have consignment art because we want our spaces to showcase local artists. So it's really built on three pillars. So we have the experiential component, and that's the fluid art. You guys may have seen that on the website. That's a certain style of painting is the Hawaii Fluid Art. And then we also offer a lot of other products like resin tumblers, like resin beach scenes. We're always working on the R&D to make sure that, we have new products coming to market that are fun, that are enjoyable, so that people can continue to come back time and time again. The second pillar is the retail. So, when people are there, they're spending time there. We're BYOB in most of our studios, depending on the state that we're in. And so we want it to be a comfortable space where people can, browse, shop things. We have a lot of Hawaiian handmade jewelry. We have a lot of Hawaiian products that are just fun and engaging and people like to look at. They're all priced very reasonably. And so the retail component is a big piece of it as well. In some ways, it gives people something to do when they're sipping. Maybe their friend is finishing up a piece and they're just, kind of looking at different items. And then the third component is that consignment art. So we contact local artists in the area, and on a consignment basis, we offer them the opportunity to hang their art up in the studio and gallery for other people to look at. And hopefully, somebody will come along and see a nice piece that they connect with, purchase that piece, and then the artist gets paid from that. It makes the space more engaging. It allows for us to give back to the community by, serving as a venue for local artists. But it's really threefold. The biggest component of it is the Hawaii fluid art, those classes, those experiences, and things like that. But we've approached it from a few different angles based on what we were seeing in the market at the time. Currently, most of our studios are in high-end strip malls. Things with Orange Theory Fitness or Sprouts grocery store. We look for places where our target demographic would spend most of their time, which is typically higher end strip centers. There's this famous quote from Bill Gates, and he says, "Be your own boss as soon as possible." And I love that because there's so many implications behind that. The biggest one for me is that, when you start your own business, you will suck at it at first. If you're a solo, if you're not buying into a franchise, you have no support, you are going to learn a lot of really hard lessons that are invaluable and will teach you a lot. And so, I don't regret anything in life, but, if I had just, started a landscaping company out of high school, I think that would have fast tracked things pretty quickly.
Kip, this has been great. We appreciate. There's obviously a million different rabbit holes we could go down within not just franchising, but your business specifically. But I think we've touched on a lot of good stuff that's applicable to many different folks, whether that's somebody looking to become a franchisee or somebody who owns a business looking to expand it and go the franchise route and become a franchisor. So really appreciate that. Our business is more service based. Yours is more retail based, which it's a nice contrast there to learn about the other side of the fence sometimes. So thank you for that. And for everybody in the audience, hopefully this was beneficial, but we appreciate Kipp's time. Kipp, where can we find you in terms of social media where, folks can reach out? Feel free to plug that here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, and then you can always reach me at Kipp, Kipp, at hawaiifluidart.com.
Awesome. Yeah, you've got a unique name, so finding you on social media should be pretty simple just by plugging your name in. But yeah, thanks again, and I'm sure we'll chat soon.
Awesome. Davis, Ted, great to meet you guys. Take care.